do anything with the Southern Poverty Law Center?
I have contacted them, and a woman wrote me back, and she said, is this the person who was formerly known as Arno the Barbarian Michaelis? I'm like, well, I feel like going up like that's an anyway up there. But yeah, they know who I was, and her and I exchanged some emails, and I'd really like to do more work with them, and I haven't heard back from her. The last, I had sent a follow-up email, and she said there was some like family medical problem or something, so I didn't want to be, I have plenty to do around here, but I would really like to connect with them and offer them my assistance, because I really like what they do.
When we were talking, and you were talking earlier about, somebody asked you about if it's worse today or if it's neutral. The Southern Poverty Law Conference is the law center is the organization in the South under Morsi who took the Ku Klux Klan down through tax evasion and
Civil suits, actually.
Civil suits, really, they just did a marvelous job. But they are reporting that hate crimes are just radically over the top since the Obama administration came in, out of this whole fear factor thing. And then it goes across all, you know, it's hatred of everyone who's not white, Northern European, and Christian. And so I was just thinking that, you know, they're such a great resource for people.
It's a great point, and Morsi is a hero of mine nowadays. Back then, he was public enemy #1. I mean, we talked about putting his head on a platter, literally. And I agree with him 100%. And like I said earlier, I think right now we're at the most dangerous time for extremism and widespread violence than we've ever been. And the thing is that when the Southern Poverty Law Center comes up and says this, certain right-wing pundits who shall remain nameless will say, oh, well, they're in the racism business. Of course they want racism to be on fire. And they just kind of dismiss it. And I think that shows a real either lack of concern about racism or a disconnect from what's really going on. And my response to that is that Worth is an attorney who could be making a hell of a lot more money doing other attorney stuff than what he's dedicated his life to. And he wouldn't be having death threats and skinheads screaming about putting his head on a platter too. So that's how I feel about this.
Any other questions?
I'll take a final question.
Sure.
Do you feel that through this aggressive culture you were in, being racist, the fights and beats, that you are truly rehabilitated?
I can honestly say I will never lift a finger in racial violence again. And I haven't put my hands on somebody since New Year's Eve, going from 95 to 96 was the last time I hit somebody, and I hit a guy for calling a black woman. That was the last time I hit somebody, and I think I am truly rehabilitated in that sense. I think when I do anti-racist action, I think I'm as genuine as any white person can ever be about it. What I have to call myself out with constantly, and where I put myself in check is when I'm looking at the Tea Partiers, I have to remind myself that they're human beings just like I am. And so I find myself in the situation where the tables are turned here and there, where it's like, okay, have I just taken my hate and put it on someone else? An analogy that kind of sums it up, I think, is well, I quit drinking and doing drugs. I still have all sorts of addictions. One of them is the Diet Coke. And I particularly like Diet Coke from McDonald's. So I'm in a McDonald's drive-thru in a swanky suburb, and I'm waiting to get my Diet Coke. And it's super busy, and the people at the window are asking asking cars if they could pull over and go wait, over there so they can get the next person up there. And a car ahead of me is a, $85,000 Mercedes G truck. And this woman's arm comes out the window. She has a fur coat on and gold. And I mean, it's all the trappings of wealth. And I'm sitting back there a couple cars, and I'm being impatient like everybody who drives here does. And I'm jonesing for my Diet Coke too, so I'm just sitting there. I'm getting more angry at the minute. And then I get it in my head. I have no idea that this was the case, but I get it in my head, I'm like, oh, she doesn't want to go wait like everybody else. She doesn't have to wait because she's Mercedes. That's awesome. That's great. Rich white bitch. Right? I'm getting all bent out of shape. And then all of a sudden I go, whoa, wait a minute here, dude. 20 years ago, this is how you would be if a black guy was 2 cars ahead of you. And now you're this way because you see a rich white woman. So what does that say? What do you have to learn yet? I have a lot to learn. I have a ton to learn. I'm by no means Gandhi or Dr. King. I'm still a very combative person. I still leap at every opportunity to fight. I do most of my fighting verbally, and I still beat people up all the time with my keyboard. But that's not always productive. It's not always a constructive thing. So I really try to maintain an even keel and remind myself that people are basically good. Every single person on this earth, no matter if they're a lead singer of a skinhead band, or they're in the Ku Klux Klan, or if they're a member of the NAACP, every single person has an innate and natural desire to be treated with kindness and respect. And beautifully, they also have the ability to give people kindness and respect. Some people never realize that. I'm in the process of realizing it. And it's something I'm really excited about. And it's kind of the message that Life After Hate is all based on, is this idea of basic human goodness. People are basically good. It's also the core foundation of all the great religions of the world. Christianity, Judaism, Islam are all about, in their own language, it's about the idea that people are basically good, and that we can live peacefully, and we can treat each other with compassion. And that's what I try to focus on, and I have to focus on very often because I still get really angry about stuff sometimes. But that's a great question.